Back in 1993, Hocus Pocus donned the big screen and was actually one of my first theatrical experiences, so I owe everything to that movie to the man I am today towards theatrical experiences. And I, of course, was somebody that really loved the first one. I've got it on 4K. I actually watched it a couple of days ago prior to me seeing the sequel. So it's definitely something that I worship. So it took them 29 long years, before they finally came out with the sequel for Hocus Pocus 2. Did it put a spell on me, or was it a curse? What's up, everybody, and welcome to my review of Hocus Pocus 2. Yes, I finally got around to seeing it. Thank you so much, guys, for clicking here. I really do appreciate it. So after 29 years, the Sanderson Sisters are back after two young women resurrected by mistake. It's up to these two women to stop the child-hungry witches from wreaking havoc upon the world. Yes, it's finally here. And let me just go on record, and I think I've said this before in past, but I don't have Disney Plus, but I was invited to my aunt and uncle's house because they have Disney Plus, so I was finally able to see it, so that's why this is a month late, just about. So after learning that they were planning a sequel, I was curious. Like I said before, the first one was pretty much the first theatrical experience I ever had. I must have been like, what, 6 or 7, maybe 8 years old at the time. Back in 93. So I owe everything to that one, is the reason why I have a strong opinion and a strong attitude towards theaters. The first one became a cult classic, pretty much. And it's one of those basic Halloween traditions to where you can't go through a Halloween without watching that movie. You know, you just can't. It's tradition. It's set in stone. So yeah, of course, by the time they got to the sequel, 29 years later, God, I'm getting old. Color me curious. Was this worth the wait? Did this come anywhere near the magic that was the original? Let's start off the positives of Hocus Pocus 2. First and foremost, I gotta say, the Sanderson Sisters, Bette Midler, Kathy Najimy, and Sarah Jessica Parker returns. They hadn't lost a beat. I mean, even watching the trailers before I watched this movie, they haven't aged a bit, and their characters was just the same as the original. They hadn't lost a single beat. It was just as good, and it's just the same character traits, down to the personality, down to the way they move. They just hadn't lost a single touch of what these characters brought to the screen 29 years ago. And knowing this, already, have watching the trailer, I was expecting that. For these actors, even better with age. I've said this before in other movies, especially with like legacy sequels, but it just seems like Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Kathy Najimy, they hadn't lost a single touch to what these actors had brought to these characters all those years ago. And in the sequel, they were just as good. They were just as funny, witty. Especially Bette Midler. Comparing this to like a Three Stooges type, she was like the Mo of the three. She was like the leader, and she was like the more mean one, just like Mo was. Again, for this sequel, they hadn't lost a single beat. They hadn't lost a single trait of what these characters was, and I really did appreciate that. These characters was pretty much the same as they were in the original. If not, they added a little flavor to it, and it was pretty good. I laughed quite a bit. In fact, the only time I did smile, I had a big smile on my face. By the time the movie was over, my face was sore. It was when they showed up. So yeah, I gotta give props to those actors. They did a really good job after all these years. They just preserved the characters so well, as if those characters actually was put to rest 29 years ago, and those actors just kept it dormant. And it's like the inner characters knew that a sequel was going to come out. So whenever the sequel did happen, they just came out full throttle. And it was like nothing was missed towards these characters.
Lock up your children! Yes, Salem, we're back!
Not to mention the girls that played the young Sanderson sisters. You got Taylor Henderson, who plays the young Winifred. She mastered it fully. I mean, down to her movement, to her personality, to the way she talked, the way she looked. It's as if Bette Midler's younger self time traveled. I'll just put it that way. Like I said, everything from down to her looks, her personality, and her movement, she did a wonderful job. Great casting choice. And the other two was great too. Nina Kitchen, who played the young Mary, she was pretty good. And Juju Breen, who played young Sarah, were pretty good too. But the one that stuck out the most was Winifred, was Taylor Henderson. They all three did a really good job, especially when it was showing the origin story of these characters. Taylor Henderson really shined as that character, and I really do gotta give her props. All three of them did an amazing job though. And besides, Bette Midler's character was always the more colorful out of the three anyway. Like I said, she's the Mo to the other two Larry and Curly's. And the two main characters, Whitney Peak and Belissa Escobedo, sorry if I'm butchering that, they were pretty good. I like the dynamic focus on how they flesh these characters out. These are the two that accidentally raised as the witches. Especially with what they did with the one character towards the end, which I won't get into, especially for those of you who hadn't seen it, because it's still fresh. It was pretty interesting. And of course, Doug Jones returns as Billy the Zombie. He was pretty good. In the first one, he shows up, and then he just, kind of goes away, like right when the movie ends. But I feel like in the sequel, they gave him more of a part. Not that I'm saying that I didn't like him in the original. I felt like they kind of expanded him a little bit in this. And they made him speak more. His mouth was sewed shut throughout half the third act of the original, but still, I felt like they gave him more of a character trait in this, and they expanded on his story a little bit, on what he was. Like, you hear it in passing in the original, but you get a little bit more of it in this, of what his history was with Bette Midler's character, with Winifred. And that was pretty interesting. I felt like he was a little more funnier. He had more of a funnier trait in the sequel than he did in the original. I'm glad they brought that character back. I kind of knew, because people had seen it before me, I kind of knew that he was going to return. But whenever he showed up, I was like, oh yeah, that guy. I felt like the filmmakers expanded his role tremendously in this one compared to the original. I'm glad. I always did kind of find that character a little interesting, especially growing up watching the original. He just felt more vital to the story, to what was going on in the sequel than he did in the original. But that's just me. Y'all might not have perceived that, but I did. And my last positive was the score by John Debney, who actually returns from the original. He really captured the spark of how he did the scoring of that original film. There was this one score that you hear at the beginning of the original that you hear somewhat of in this one, mixed it in with a more modernized sound of scoring, but he still kept that original scoring intact. And I really did appreciate that. It definitely did bring me back. I really did enjoy hearing that. Now, and for discrepancy, guys, I wasn't expecting this to uphold at all against the original. I wasn't expecting it to be better than that. I wasn't expecting it to be like the most greatest thing out there. But there was some moments to be had. Again, I knew some things was gonna, shake me a little raw. And I knew I was going to have some issues with it. So as we delve into our negatives, the plot, I felt like there wasn't that much there. I felt like it was more of a rehash of the original. You get these two friends that find this candle and lights it and brings these witches back. The witches didn't really do nothing new here. They still on the same evil quest as they were in the original. Like trying to find all the children in Salem and kill them and all that. Which, to me, it just kind of felt a little, I've already seen this before. It didn't really bring nothing new. And speaking of that, I felt like they kind of humanized the Sanderson sisters a little bit too much. They tried to make you feel sympathy when, in the back of your head, they're child killers. Why would I want to feel sympathy for that? I know they were trying to do something new, and they were trying to focus on something that has not been told before. It's been 29 years, so new direction is pivotal. But I just felt like they kind of overdid it a little with trying to make you feel sympathy for these characters when you know they're child killers. They damn well succeeded, of that in the original, and they actually remind you at the beginning of this one when the one guy was telling the story of the Sanderson sisters. So why would I want to feel sympathy for that? I don't know, just something about that, no. Just no. As much as I like the Sanderson sisters, how funny they are, especially with Bette Midler's character, I don't want to feel sympathy, per se for them. Because again, child killers. Why would you feel sympathy for the devil? I know, I just quoted the song, shut up. Why would you feel sympathy for Dahmer? Why would you feel sympathy for Hitler? Just saying. And the whole resurrection thing, I felt like it missed the point. I can't really talk about this movie in general without comparing it to the original. It just felt like it was not... It just wasn't really presented in a way that really captivated me because I felt like it just missed the point. You have these two women who just willy-nilly gets a hand of another candle, which doesn't make sense within its own because as far as I can remember, I think the original actually confirmed that that was the only candle to burn, and they already used that in the original. How is more candles existence? Not unless when the sisters died in the beginning of the original, when they spit and had that whole sing-along song and stuff, we will come back and we will be vengeful and this and that. Not unless they created more candles than just one, but they didn't confirm that. So, I don't know. I just didn't really buy it. I felt like this movie didn't really capture the magic that the first one had. As much as I loved how Bette Midler and Sarah Jessica Parker and Kathy and Jenny captured those characters just perfectly, just like they did in the original. As much as I enjoyed their characters, I just felt like this movie kind of missed the point. I felt like it was missing just that special something that made the original such a classic. And of course, what sequel can you say that about nowadays? When you make something original and you try to do a sequel, it's never going to feel the same. Jaws 2, Jaws 3D, Amityville 2, so on and so forth. I can go on. I just felt like Hocus Pocus 2 just missed the point. As much as I enjoyed the movie, as many moments that there are still to be had in this, I felt like it just, just missed its magic. Felt like it didn't have as much magic spark as the original did, is all I'm saying. Just felt like something was missing. Again, I was kind of fully expecting it, which is why I'm not going too harsh. And to some of you, it might sound like I am, but, it is what it is. I'm not trying to be too harsh. I did enjoy this movie, but it just, compared to the original, there's no way you can compare something like this, especially to something that's been made a classic already, and you get a sequel like this. You can't not compare it. There's just no way. Maybe if they had at least the OG characters from the original, not by the same actors, because I think some of the actors from the original actually did retire, but like Max, the smart aleck guy, the one that actually lit the candle of the original, and his little sister Danny, and his love interest Allison, if they just came back and just do a cameo, that would have made it just a little bit better. That would have threw a little bit more of the magic spark in it. Even in cameos, I wouldn't care. But in the end, guys, there's still plenty to like here. If you're a hardcore fan of the original, though, you might feel a little empty and on the fence. So Hocus Pocus 2, what was your thoughts on it? Were you a fan? Did you enjoy seeing the Sanderson sisters back? Did you just find any entertainment value here? Was this your favorite, or do you prefer the original over this one? Leave me a comment down below and give me your thoughts. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this. I really do appreciate it. Like, subscribe, comment, and share the big 4. And make sure to click that bell icon so you don't miss a thing. And I will see you on the next one. And remember, Hocus Pocus 2, I don't think I said this before, is on Disney Plus, as everybody knows. So go check that out if you have Disney Plus. And I will see you on the next one. Peace.